I'm Will Yeoman, and welcome to another episode of the pod Well Travelled. I'm joined today by travel editor Stephen Scourfield and travel aviation writer. Look, I don't know what to call you anymore, Geoffrey, because just do everything.
Just call me GT.
GT. That's what I feel like right now, and it's only 7 a.m. in the morning. Look, gents, welcome to the show. Stephen, you're calling in remotely today, which is slightly unusual, but welcome nevertheless.
Thanks. Yes, I'm just I'm getting ready to go to Antarctica, so I'm sort of keeping myself to myself a bit the last few days before I get on the plane.
Of course.
And I need a clear test to get on the ship, and it would be embarrassing not to be able to.
It would be a disaster, to say the least. Anyway, I was going to say later on the show we'll be welcoming Stephanie Robertson, who is the new regional manager for Western Australia and South Australia for FCM, which is the corporate arm of the Flight Centre Travel Group. In the meantime, Geoffrey, you've been getting up to some really exciting things because the Queen Elizabeth is back for the first time in quite some time right here in Perth.
Yes, magnificent sight. Got up 3 o'clock in the morning on Monday to get down to Freo to see it come through the heads at just before 5 o'clock. Magnificent sight. I mean, that's a beautiful ship. I mean, the Cunard make beautiful ships, and this is a glorious ship. Australians have a real love affair with Cunard over the years, and this cruise was from Barcelona. A lot of Western Australians were actually on that cruise and got off in Fremantle, and then she's now doing a circumnavigation of Australia back into Fremantle on December 2, and then across to Sydney. But yes, went there to see it come in, then also to have a look at the loading of all the produce that was going on board. Large amount of produce going on. And when she comes back on December 2nd, she's loading 300 pallets of WA produce, doing a major replenishment. So quite a logistics exercise, watching all of that, which we did on the wharf. And so the full stories in this Saturday's travel.
And not to be missed, a bit of a crowd down there?
Yes, there were. Quite a few people down there. And also Fremantle Ports had a drone up taking some fabulous photographs, which we're also going to feature in Saturday travel. Okay. She makes a magnificent sight, so it was a real good story. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this is like the premium end of cruising, isn't it? Look, it is. It's sort of traditional cruising, if you like. If you like the old traditional cruise ship experience, then this is the one to go on. I mean, that's the thing with cruising these days. You know, there's cruise ships, there's cruise ships, and there's cruise ships. You have to really be very careful about the experience that you particularly want. That's why it's really important, I think, to go to a travel agent and talk about a cruise specialist and talk about the sort of thing that you want. Not so much a matter of where you're going, but it's what's that ship offering, what's their typical clientele, et cetera, and then they can sort of say, well, look, you really need to go on this one or this one. And I've got many friends who, for instance, a real good friend of mine only travels on Holland America. He loves the Holland America experience. It's just what they want, and they simply go on Holland America ships. Same with Cunard. People say, look, I'm a Cunard person. That's the ones I'm going to go on.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yes, and you also, depending on what part of the world you are cruising, you've also got to be mindful of cultural differences between the cruising population in different countries, and so you can find yourself on board with some nationalities who, for instance, get the towels and put the towels on the lilos first thing in the morning. That's their lilo for the whole day, whether they're there or not. So you have these sorts of dynamics that are playing around and in the background. So it is really important to get a cruise specialist and to understand exactly what experience you want to get the very best out of cruising, because it is the best value for money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good advice. Stephen, are you a Cunard man?
Look, I just want a black tie every night. I want people to dress properly. So I'm at the formal end of cruising, I've got to tell you.
Casey will be very proud of you. He'll be very proud of you.
Casey will be very proud of me. But as Jeff says, there's a real differentiation in my mind, very clear break in my mind between, what I think of as the traditional cruise liner, which is a sort of ship of passage like these ships are, and the sort of floating village cruise ships, bigger and bigger, which we see, probably in, out of Queensland now and through the Pacific. That's a different kettle of fish. But I say cruise liners, to me, like this, have a completely different dynamic and a different dynamic on board as well. So what Geoffrey's saying is absolutely spot on. And I will tell a story of a reader who was a bit disappointed because he'd booked a 7-day cruise out of Hong Kong, but he got it all wrong. He'd done it himself, and it turned out to be a casino cruise which went out of the harbour every night so they could gamble and then back in every morning. And they did that for 7 days. So he just went in and out of the harbour so they could gamble at night. So it was a bit of a disaster. So, you can think you're going on a 7-day cruise, but not. As Geoffrey says, being on the right ship, not just the destinations, as Jeff also said, but the mood of the ship, and it's difficult to pin that when we're talking here, but it is really discernible when you get on board how a ship functions. I mentioned I'm just going to Antarctica, and on board those ships there, there's a very different mood. I've been on ships in Antarctica, which it felt more like a Disney show than an expedition. So getting that mood right is important.
Yeah, indeed. It really is.
Absolutely. Now, Stephen, while I've got you, I wanted to talk about a story that I've got coming up.
Actually, Will, sorry, just before you go. Geoffrey, but you're getting on December the 2nd, aren't you?
Look, I am indeed. I'm getting on December 2nd.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
You didn't keep that a secret or something.
That one out.
Yes. Well, okay.
Well, I am, and I'm absolutely looking forward to it. No, I really am. I'm really looking forward to it. And I said to my wife, the time between now and December 2nd is a complete blur. I'm just sort of going through the motions because I'm just so focused in getting on this boat, this magnificent cruise liner, and around to Esperance, Adelaide, Kangaroo Island, and into Melbourne, and getting off in Melbourne. It'll give me a great opportunity of really experiencing the Cunard line, and I'm going to get access to the bridge and the engine room and the kitchens and the storage areas. I'm getting full access, so it'll really be a great experience to not only experience the cruise itself, but to get behind the scenes and flesh out the dynamics of how this all works. So it'll be great. Looking forward to it.
Sounds amazing. And then, so we can expect to read all about those experiences too sometime afterwards.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, we're looking forward to that. In the meantime, I won't be shedding a tear for you.
No, I see that.
Okay, Stephen, as I was going to say, I was going to mention a story that I've got coming up in this weekend's travel section, which is all about Emirates' new vegan offerings, which are very impressive. And they're largely powered by this amazing high-tech hydroponic vertical farm. I think it's Bustanica that Emirates runs with vertical farming specialist Crop One right near the Dubai airport. And Stephen, I know you're a bit of a fan of vertical farming from way back, but these new vegan offerings, they look absolutely amazing, don't they?
Yeah, I do come from a rural background, so I've been very interested in this for over a decade, really. So basically, a vertical farm, for those who don't know, is like a big aircraft hangar, but it's very tall. It's completely enclosed with no windows. And the game changer, the reason that we have these vertical farms now, is LED lighting. So with LED, you get much reduced power use. So quite a lot of big vertical farms will be completely self-contained for power. So basically, if you imagine a sort of 5 or 6 story building and you're standing inside it, and there's just rack upon rack of plants as high as you can see, obviously with big lift sort of forklift trucks, basically, which can get all these produce out. It's all grown in a medium, not in soil as such, which means you have complete control of water and of the nutrients going to those plants. It's obviously pest-free, so it can be pesticide-free. It's very efficient use of water and food substitute, feed for the plants. But then, of course, you can control the light. Just just to clear one thing, which I have been asked so many times, is that plants don't actually need sun. Okay, they need light, but they need light in a certain frequency. So there is this photosynthetically active radiation range, this PRA range of 400 to 700 nanometers. So they need a certain sort of spectrum of light, which are red, blue, and green wavebands. That's what plants need. So if you supply that with LEDs, that's precisely what they need. They don't actually need the energy from the sun as such, which is sort of common thought, I suppose. So you can imagine, and I say Dubai is a good example where you can have a flow. So we might be looking at a vertical farm will have an imprint of probably, if you look at the produce, of 1% of what you would need if it was just a land-based farm. So you've got a big tall building, fully enclosed, controlling all these features, as I said, the light, the water, and the feed, on 1% of the land. And, particularly in a place like Dubai, you can pretty well be solar powered because you don't need much, just you need a little bit of power for the LEDs and pumps to run the water, and that's about it. And you can produce, up to 26 harvests a year out of a vertical farm, and you don't have to ship it because it'll be right next door to the airport.
No, exactly.
So you're not bringing in produce from, Kenya and Mexico and goodness knows where, it's just there. So it's absolutely a game changer. And I see this, there's a very good, even in Manhattan in New York, there's a Farm 1 is a vertical farm there. And it's a sort of neighborhood vertical farm. So, and it's a member-based vertical farm. So people in Manhattan join as members, which has helped to fund it. And then, of course, get produce every week delivered. So that's become a self-funding vertical farm in the middle of Manhattan. And in Singapore's been very, the UK led this to some degree. Singapore has taken up very strongly. There's 4 very big vertical farms there. And actually one of them, next time I'm in Singapore, Sky Greens does tours for the public on Saturday. That's a story that I've got in my sights because, it'd be so interesting for lots of us. There's a lot of rural people here in Western Australia and, elsewhere travelling to Singapore who might be very interested to see behind the scenes of this new farming wave.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you mentioned when we first started talking about it, saying, why have we got these, what's made this possible? And that's the LED lighting that's been key to it. But why, what's been the impetus behind these in the first place? And of course, you've touched on that, and that's scarcity of resources, whether it's space or soil or nutrients or sunlight or something like that. There's a reason people are wanting to build these in the first place, isn't there?
That's right. It's massively efficient. And of course, air miles have become very important. Lots of places in the world, England's a good example where, in a supermarket we'll have the air miles underneath the produce. So, and gradually you become more educated to how far your food has been flown or transported. Whereas I say, if you can grow, as you've just said, you can grow chia and fruit and avocados and goodness what else, on site virtually. But certainly grain crops go very, very well in vertical farms. So partly because it's pest free and
it's very controlled.
You're not going to get frost. You're not going to get drought. You're not going to get it's a perfect scenario.
No, you're right.
And so but also say you can actually be seasonal and you can be on site, which is a game changer. So all because of LED lighting. Yeah.
No, it's incredible. Now, Geoffrey, you'd be across a lot of the menu offerings on various airlines and so forth. Have you noticed that sort of, a stronger move towards vegetarian, vegan, more healthy eating?
Look, absolutely. Healthy eating on aeroplanes is critical, particularly when it comes to sort of, arriving in better shape. And it's been a trend for quite some time that airlines have focused on healthier options, and you usually get the little sign, healthier option sign, and now moving more into the vegan area as well, and other directions. And it's great because healthy eating is good for you anyway, and it's particularly so on an aeroplane where you just don't need to eat all the wrong food, because you're going to arrive pretty well knocked out if you do, because you sort of tend to drink too much alcohol as well. So there's a real science goes into this, and I know that Stephen's also been to Emirates Kitchen in Dubai, which is the biggest kitchen in the world. And when you see the work that goes into the food preparation and the science behind it, is really an amazing place to go. It's one of the most fascinating places to go is Emirates Kitchen in Dubai.
Okay, incredible. I guess traditionally, airline food has not had a good reputation.
No, it hasn't, and of course part of that is to do with the altitude. Taste changes with altitude, and of course you've got this food prepared, cooked or pre-cooked, then reheated. I mean, it goes through so many processes, and the fact that they deliver it as beautifully as they do
is a miracle in itself, isn't it? Really,
exactly. And I know that airlines have been cutting back, and sometimes on domestic flights we're now given a cardboard box with some scrambled eggs in it, and think, well, I wish for the good old days. But look, on international flights, which is what we're talking about,
yes.
The food service is excellent, and really an outstanding scientific achievement to deliver it to you in the state that it is and the taste that it is. And they've got some tricks. They go for certain foods because they retain their taste, and they add sauces that
don't separate as well.
Yeah, and as I said, it really is a science. It really is a science. There's two sciences. One is how does the aeroplane fly, and the other science is how come the food's so good despite what's had to go through. And that's the other thing too, because sometimes with airlines flying to some destinations that they're not happy with the catering, they actually take it all the way with them and then bring it and they serve it on the way back. So there's some serious time issues going on with some of the food that's served on airplanes.
Now, Stephen, you've interviewed some chefs in the past that have discussed these issues, those challenges that are involved in coming up with food for flights as opposed to just being in restaurants.
That's right. One of the most interesting conversations on that subject was with Neil Perry, who does for more than 25 years, I think, is the longest relationship between a sort of celebrity or a guest chef and an airline. And Neil was saying that, one of the main drivers for him is the choreography of putting the meal together, because he said if you think if a kitchen looks busy and small, the galley of an aircraft is so small, and there's people trying to do things quickly and serve lots of people pretty quickly. That the actual movement is very important of how you place this and that, and this person has to move there and this person has to move there.
So it all has to be coordinated.
That you actually start with the choreography of what's possible, because if it's too complex and everyone's just falling over each other, it's going to be a big mess before you've even got to the plate sort of thing. So I thought that was very interesting. I hadn't thought that through myself.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, isn't it?
So, Will, you raised a very interesting point too in your story, which is that, this is another feature of carbon reduction.
Well, I guess I was kind of being tongue-in-cheek, but maybe not. I mean, I was writing about, could in-flight vegan meals actually go towards carbon offsetting air travel? Because if you make that decision and everyone is eating vegan, for example, on a particular flight, I mean, if you think it, because the IPCC has talked about switching to more plant-based meals, helping to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and I guess that's a bit of a no-brainer, really. But yeah, it just kind of occurred to me as I was looking into the story.
Well, I think it's a very good point.
Well, of course, I probably some people don't realise this. But cows are far, far, far worse than aeroplanes when it comes to emissions.
I thought you were going to say when it comes to flying.
So yes, eating less eating fewer hamburgers, and eating not passing up on the steak and having a vegan patty instead or something like that. Yes, you should get some carbon credits for that.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea. I don't know if you were tongue in cheek. You should probably be tofu in cheek, actually.
Yes.
But,
no, it's my tongue. I'm allowed to eat my own tongue. Self-cannibalism. On that lovely image, I'll say goodbye to you, gents, because I'm about to welcome Stephanie onto the show. In the meantime, Stephen, I always like to ask you, is there anything coming up, anything else that listeners should know about?
No, there's nothing happening out there. Yeah, in fact, there's a lot coming out. I'm just writing about 5 things to do in a hotel room, and that's not what you think. And also, I'm just responding to a couple of emails about now people are out and about how to avoid being pickpocketed.
Wow.
So we've always got, it's quite interesting when readers contact us with certain issues. You go, well, if you've got that issue, probably other people have. So, we've got a lot coming up. But as I say, Geoffrey's off and I'm off, so hold the fort, will you?
I'll try to. I'll do my best. All right, gents. Well, thanks again. As I say, I'm going to talk to Stephanie now. So all the best until next week, and thanks for joining us on the Pod Well Travelled.
Thank you.
Okay, so Stephanie, welcome to the Pod Well Travelled.
Thank you for having me, William.
It's an absolute pleasure. Now, could we start by your telling us a little about your background and your career path and your exciting new position?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, I've always loved travel. I wanted to travel myself when I was younger, so I got into travel to try and, find a pathway to be able to do that. So you might hear an accent. I'm not originally from Australia. Even though I do have my passport, I'm a true Aussie citizen. But I actually moved across to Australia in 2012.
So celebrating 10 years.
That's right. Absolutely. We're celebrating, I say. So I came across and I took my travel industry experience with me, and I started with FCM Travel 10 years ago now, a little bit longer. So I guess FCM has been really kind to me in that we really are allowed to flourish in our leadership journey. We have a really cool pathway that we call Brightness of Future, and it's really led me to my leadership journey, where I am today. And I'm actually just returning to the workforce after becoming a mum for the second time.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. So, I am feeling very grateful to be supported in a leadership position like this while still being able to bring up my family.
Oh, amazing. So for people who don't know much about FCM, can you give us a brief overview of where it sits in the Flight Centre Travel Group's offerings? Because everyone's heard of Flight Centre.
Of course. Everyone has, and all for good reasons. The red and white stores are everywhere. It's hard not to see us. I guess FCM, we're the large market corporate side. We look after, large market customers, and that could be anywhere from Australia to around the world. We've got a global footprint. We're in about 100 countries, I think, last count. Headquartered in Brisbane, 8,000 odd employees, and we kind of look after any large market customer that has a requirement to travel for business.
Okay, that sounds amazing. So I'm wondering then, if we can just drill down into some certain areas that have impacted the world in general, but specifically in the area you work in. For example, the huge impact that new technologies had on corporate travel.
Oh my goodness, tech is coming at us thick and fast, more so than it ever has. It's a great thing. Like there's a lot of things that have come out of COVID, and the new technology is probably one of the most exciting. We're actually starting to see, enhancements to make the traveler's journey easier. So I'll give you a good example of, you might have seen lately in the news that Brisbane Airport is starting to roll out the biometrics technology in time for the Olympics, and they're going to have a big surge in passenger arrivals.
Indeed.
So, whilst this kind of technology has been around for quite some time, we're starting to see the investments that are now taking place to actually implement it. There is still lots of investment, but you only need to look at what's happened this year with, significant delays and disruptions in flight cancellations. So whilst we are working on rolling out lots of new technology, we actually still need humans to assist. There's lots of technology that we could, put in front of a client. But if ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're stuck in an airport, you really do need your travel managers to be able to support you whilst on the ground.
No, 100%. And you've already partly answered the question that I was going to ask next, which is the impact of COVID. But I'm specifically interested in the idea that some people may find it less necessary to travel in a way because of the technology we've had available in terms of Teams and Zoom and all those sort of interactions you can now have over the internet in a way that we didn't really quite have before. Have you noticed a shift yourself in that?
We have noticed a shift. However, it's probably not the way that you think it might have fallen. I feel like our travel community is tired of Zooms and Teams meetings. We had such a long time where we were grounded, especially here in WA, whereby you literally couldn't see your team or you couldn't have that business meeting in person. And so what we're seeing now, there is a lot of inflation in fares because of COVID. There's not enough seats on the flights to get our people out, and there's not enough supply. The demand is high, but people are actually valuing the face-to-face time. They're paying the extra price to be able to have those discussions in person, and we are actually seeing that the travel industry is booming. The tidal wave, as we spoke about for a long time, is well and truly here.
Yeah, look, that makes absolute sense to me, and certainly I, for one, sometimes it's a bit of a drag to think, let's meet over Teams, let's meet over Zoom.
It is, isn't it? We've had enough of them. We're hoping that the increase in seats that are coming back to Perth. You might have seen that Emirates are bringing back their 88 days, and Cunard bringing back theirs too. It's so exciting, and we really will welcome those planes back to the runways. So hopefully that will eventually drive prices down with just a bit more competition in the market.
Absolutely. Now, look, another factor that may have had some play in your industry is certainly the increasing environmental awareness with customers and certainly companies as well, and particularly talking at the time of recording this with COP27 in full swing at the moment. It's on everyone's mind, isn't it?
It is. It's at the forefront of all of our conversations. It's an interesting one, actually. Our consulting arm, FCM Consulting, we just recently surveyed the market globally, and whilst it is really important, we actually found that 44% of our customers said that price was still more important at the moment than sustainability. Also, they do really want to educate their travellers to make the right decisions whilst travelling. So it's a really big ticket item, and we are starting to see customers become more real about it and kind of taking action rather than just talking about it. So looking at not just paying money to offset, but trying to encourage their travellers to make the right choices whilst they're on their trip. So things like, do you take your carry cup, or single-use plastics? Do we don't use them, or even as simple as, do we reuse our hand towels, in the hotel? So yeah, just trying to educate the travellers on what it actually means to be responsible, while still grappling a little bit with the balancing of trying to maintain business.
Absolutely.
And continue about our journey. Yeah.
No, I completely get that. Now, just thinking about this concept of frictionless travel that we've heard so much about the last few years, and again, you've kind of already addressed that in some of your answers, but just as an overall concept, how vital is that, particularly when you're talking about industry and business?
Sure. I guess frictionless is such a buzzword in the industry just now, and I love it. There's been a lot of stress and anxiety for the travel community over the last 2 years, and so now more than ever, it's super important to have a stress-free, a frictionless way to travel for our customers. So what are our companies doing? They're looking at protocols. What do we actually include in a travel policy to make sure that when you're on the road, you feel supported? Like, what happens if I get sick? How do I look at insurance, or am I able to visit a local hospital? Those types of things. But also things like giving them an extra day to settle in when they actually travel, instead of coming straight off a plane and going straight into a meeting. Providing a travel pack, sanitizer, a mask. Just try to get ahead of the game so that travellers are feeling more comfortable with the journey and the preparation, to try and remove a lot of the anxiety that they've come as a result of COVID.
Yeah, look, it's so important. I mean, that's fantastic. Now, just to finish with, usually I always ask people if there's anything else I'd like to mention or talk about, because invariably there's probably a question that you were dying for me to ask you, but I didn't.
Look, I've got to say it. There's probably never been a more important time to have a travel management company and a travel manager support you whilst being up in the air. We are seeing more so than ever the value that it's returning to businesses.
Okay, look, fair point. Now, just to double check, are you now based in Perth again?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I'm based in Perth. I'm a local WA girl, even though I don't sound like it.
Well, you could conceivably have come from the other Perth, couldn't you?
That's true. Very true.
Okay, well, look,
maybe not quite as beautiful.
Oh, you're a bit of a softie. Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking to us on the Pod Well Travelled.
Thanks, William.
Good luck
Thank
with
you
the
for
new
having
position.
me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. And
Much appreciated.
let's just hope it's plain flying, plain sailing for all of us into the future.
I love it.
Okay, take care now. Bye.
Talk soon. Thanks. Bye.